Well, the main influence for my writing is music, rather than any other writers or anything like that. I mean, for me, what I've always been trying to do when I was in Manchester is to try and create this kind of writing that would be the equivalent of listening to a great Manchester record. So when I was a teenager, which was during the punk days, you know, it would be like Joy Division or The Fall or something like that. Or New Order. So what I was trying to do with my early stuff, which Vurt is to create a kind of an equivalent in words that would affect people in the same way that listening to a great New Order track would. So I've always taken stuff from writing. I take a lot of ideas from things like dub reggae, where the producer plays with the levels of sound and when instruments come out and in. So that's a big influence on the way I write, when I play with words and reinvent words and mess about with the kind of sentences and so on. And other influences, comic books when I was a kid, Spider-Man especially, just the way they had of setting a story out with the large panels and the action flowing from panel to panel. So there's that kind of thing. So my influences really come from outside the field of novels, and I think that's quite interesting, quite important that happens. And a very important moment for me in terms of becoming an artist or a writer or whatever is that when I was at school, this lad came up to me one time and he said, "Have you got the time?" And I said, "No." And he said, "Well, I have." He said, "I've got a watch." And I said, "Can I see it?" And he said, "No, it's invisible." And he actually claimed, this lad, that he had this invisible watch. And this is a true story, this really happened to me. And I was fascinated by the idea of this invisible watch. And I actually made a swap with him. I think it was for a car, model car or something like that. I would bring the car in the next day and he would bring the invisible watch in. And we would swap this stuff. And this actually happened, and he put this invisible watch in my hand and I looked at it and I just believed in it. And I always think that was the moment in which I started to become an artist. You know, that ability to believe in this invisible watch. So, although on one level I was just conned, you know, I like to think I actually won. You know, because I'm the one who believes in invisible objects. The original inspiration for Vert came out of me discovering the kind of the invention of virtual reality in America, and I kind of came across it because a friend of mine at Waterstone's bookshop brought a magazine over from the States, which was like this underground science magazine, and I'd never seen anything like it before, and that was the first time I'd ever seen virtual reality mentioned. And it was obviously an extension of what William Gibson had been doing in Neuromancer and trying to make that real. And I always thought that nobody had yet taken those ideas and set them in Britain, and specifically in a place like Manchester, in this really kind of urban setting. And what would it be like to do that? And why had nobody done it yet? Vert had been out for a few years as a novel, and then the Contacts approached me and were interested in putting it on as a play. And I said, fine, but I don't want to write it, because I hadn't written a play for a long time, for about 8, 9, 10 years, something like that, and it wasn't really something I was looking forward to going back to, because I thought, well, I'm a novelist now, you know. And also I felt that most probably I would be too close to the book, I would know too much about it, and I wouldn't really be able to free it to make it into a play, because when you make a play out of a book, you really have to throw the book away to a large extent. But what we found, or what I found when I was kind of talking to other writers who were interested in doing it, is that they were closer to the book than I was. They were more precious about it. And I came to realise that only I myself knew the real secret of this book and the real secret of how to make it happen as a play. So I actually had to take that job on. Now, writing a novel is exciting, but it's something that just happens in a room and it's just you and you're doing it. And when you put it out, really, you've got no clue as to what people think of it, apart from what your friends say, and you can't really, I mean, they're going to say it's all right, you know. But then you've got critics. Now, critics can love it or they can hate it, etc. And then you'll meet your fans. who might like it, might not like it. But all those reactions are quite kind of muted because they're almost at a distance. Whereas with the play, it's happening there live in your face, and you can't escape from that instant reaction. So putting a play on is much more scarier than publishing a novel. And because of that, although it is scary, it is much more exciting. I mean, I was just listening to the read-through now for the first time I've actually heard this read. I mean, and two things. I mean, the good bits, you're just thinking, yes, this is brilliant, it just works, it's fantastic. And then the bad bits are they're just like daggers stuck into your heart. They're so bad. And it's only by hearing people read it that you discover what the good and the bad things are in a play, and you can then start to do something about them.
What advice would you give to young writers?
Well, to be a writer, writing isn't an easy thing, I've found. I'll be honest about this. It actually takes a bit of effort, and it takes a bit of work. You know, it's not the same as sitting down and writing a pop song, say, or trying to write. You know, it's not the same as becoming a DJ or something like that. It actually takes quite a lot of effort and patience to just sit yourself down in the room and just try and empty your mind onto this kind of screen and onto the page. And to do that, you can do that for a day, that's quite easy, but to come back the next day and improve on what you've just done, that's more difficult. To actually finish a novel, that's a big commitment of your time and your energy and your patience, so you've got to commit to it. And to commit to it, you've got to be passionate about it. You know, the single strongest tool that any person can have of any age, but especially young people, is a passion. If they've got a passion to do it, then they'll do it. If you haven't got that passion, then you're not going to do it. And that's quite simple. So somewhere within yourself, you've got to find that passion. And if your passion is to write pop songs or whatever, if that's your dream, then you should go for that. If your dream is to write a novel, a short story, you're going to have to really commit to it. But if you do, it's exciting, it's brilliant, because you're creating a world. And you can change people with that world. You can change the way that people think and feel with that world that you've created. So there's nothing like it in terms of satisfaction.